Within the Black community, the one constant, consistent source of strength, comfort, and refuge has been the church, a relationship that began centuries ago, once the first slaves came to America.
As early as late 1600s, we find evidences of the coming together of Black people around worship and formal worship spaces that housed the worshipers that we call churches.
Dr. Derek Hicks is a professor of religion and culture at Wake Forest University and author of the book Reclaiming Spirit in the Black Faith Tradition. Hicks says for many slaves, the creation of these worship spaces sprang from a hushed rebellion, the reclamation of the soul and spirit in the midst of being oppressed.
But church was also happening, as we put it, down by the riverside, where they were extracting themselves away from the guise of the overseer or the master, who did not want African Americans or enslaved Black people to worship among themselves.
I'll be so glad when the sun goes down.
Historical records show that the oldest independent African American religious denomination is the AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church, founded by Reverend Richard Allen in 1794. As more denominations began, churches became a world within a world for Black people, all unified in the faith that freedom would eventually come. The struggle would stretch beyond the Civil War and Reconstruction, beyond Jim Crow and the stubborn South. And by the mid-20th century, Black churches had transitioned into a political force with a voice loud enough to shape national policy. Dr. Eric Williams is a curator with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
First cadre of politicians within the Black community emerged from the church. The first teachers emerged from the church. The first group of Black intellectuals emerged from the church. So they were able to organize the people, and they were able to motivate them around this matter of justice and liberation.
Following the Civil Rights Movement, the Black church's evolution into a social and cultural epicenter only grew. Michael Walren Jr. is senior pastor at First Corinthians Baptist Church in Harlem.
Socially, politically, spiritually, educationally, everything that was vital and critical to the sustenance of Black life had its origin and sustenance within the Black church.
That sustenance for Black life took on an even more profound role for Black churches amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, where an invisible enemy hit its community the hardest.
Homelessness, unemployment, job insecurity, food insecurity, you name it. We have to also speak to those needs.
Higher and higher into the light.
And while these structures may have changed over the many, many decades, the stature of the Black church remains the same.
A place of deep humanity, a place of affirmation and cultivation of gifts.
Preservation, resilience, striving, perpetual striving.
I think that is why it has always been such a critical part of the African American experience and religious experience in particular.
From Harlem, Antoine Lewis, Fox 5 News.